Welcome to Y11 Audio. Eastern Michigan 42, Eastern Kentucky 34. Eastern gets its first win of the season last night. I was going to do this all last night, but then I started to sit down to record, and I was like, oh, it's 1 a.m. I'm going to bed. I'll do this at 8 in the morning tomorrow. It's now 9, but thank you for listening. If you've already listened to the other episodes, and you would know that throughout the season, we're also going to do recap episodes after each Eastern Michigan football game. We're already going to be doing Monday episodes, so make sure you're subscribed to Y11 Audio wherever you can. But let's just talk about yesterday's game. Close win, good win, hard win. Wasn't easy, wasn't pretty. It's going to make you, if you're walking away feeling excellent and amazing and somewhat blissfully just feeling good about the potential of everything that you just saw, then maybe you need to recalibrate, because it was a very difficult win. It wasn't easy, and there were a lot of blemishes that were on display for Eastern Michigan. There were things that it has to work on, and things that Eastern Michigan has to come to terms with and know that it has a lot of strengths, but it's not perfect. And it's going to have to sometimes be on its P's and Q's at all times. And to its credit, Eastern Michigan did that. Eastern Kentucky, again, a team that, if you're in the know, you know that Eastern Kentucky is no slouch. They have players at a lot of spots, at a lot of different levels on both sides of the ball, and an all-conference kicker. That's why that kid went 2 for 2 on field goals from 33 and 40 yards out. Eastern Kentucky is no slouch. They were respected coming in, and they damn well better have your respect going out. That was a good football team. That's a team that can bang. That's a team that can fight. That's a team that can play. That's a team that, if they ever make it into the MAC for whatever reason, I am super, super ready to bring them on and just kind of accept that kind of challenge ahead of, as a follower of a MAC school, of course. I'd be so ready to bring on that competition, because Eastern Kentucky can bring it. But that's a discussion for another day. Here's the one for now. Eastern Michigan 42, Eastern Kentucky 34. We're going to run down the drives. We're going to talk about them briefly. And then I'm going to leave you with 5 big takeaways. That's the way we're going to do it. Just briefly talk about the game, say how it happened, have 5 takeaways, and we're going to be on our way. First half, Eastern Kentucky got the ball. They drove 65 yards all the way to the Eastern 10-yard line. In that drive, Eastern Kentucky, they converted 2 third downs and a 4th down. So it's scary times. That was a scary drive. If you're Eastern Michigan, that's not one you want to see, especially knowing the final score. Having a drive like that, you don't really want to see that. But anyways, EKU, they drove all the way to the 10. Blake Bogan, who was honored the number 0 jersey this week for being a really good defensive player, returning senior from Grand Blanc, came away with an interception. The guy quarterback really shouldn't have thrown that ball. That was a really bad decision on his part. But thankfully, ended up in Eastern's favor. Comes away with the interception. Unfortunately, the offense doesn't really do anything on its first drive or its second drive. 3 and out by Eastern, 3 and out by Eastern Kentucky, 3 and out by Eastern Michigan. And then Eastern Kentucky, they drove the ball on its next drive, 59 yards, finished with a 33-yard field goal. And that was how the game started in the second quarter after a scoreless first. So what would Eastern Michigan do with the ball right after Eastern Kentucky gets on the board first at Rynerson? Eastern's Jalen Jackson, the first time you got to see him, number 28, the running back that just transferred in from Lamar, he was in on kick return unit. The ball went his way, so he got to pop one out all the way out to the 35-yard line, or 36 rather, but 37. But a horse collar penalty on the Eastern Kentucky defender that was trying to bring him down. That scoots Eastern Michigan up 15 more yards. So Eastern Michigan was looking really good with its field position. The first two possessions, they didn't have this, but now they're already across midfield without really doing anything. So now you better score. If you're gonna like rev up that engine, now you have to like finish with 7 points. Don't just get 2 first downs and call it a day. And they do that. Taylor Powell, he helps the team drive, hooks up with Tanner Canoe with a nice over the top touchdown pass. Just went lollipopped right in there. So looked really good. Eastern was up 7-3. EKU, they fumble the ball on the next drive. Melvin Swindle, my guy, he comes through, gets his hand on the ball, gets the Eastern Kentucky offensive player to fumble the ball away. Russ Vaden recovers it. Eastern Michigan, great field position again. They're on Eastern Kentucky's 49 after that fumble. They drive 51 yards. Samson Evans, he caps things off with an 8-yard touchdown run to the right side. Eastern takes a nice lead, 14-3. Eastern Kentucky, they drive for 75 yards on the next drive. They finish things up with a touchdown, 19-yard pass to one of its receivers, Jaden Smith. So they're cutting into the lead. So Eastern Kentucky, man, they were never out of this thing. Like, this was a common thing. Anytime Eastern got to a good lead, Eastern Kentucky was right there. Just right on the heels. Up 14-0 though. Eastern Michigan, they try throwing it to Canoe again. They try a deep pass with time essentially expiring, but still Tanner Canoe, it was a good idea, but just a really bad pass. Just underthrown, just not a very accurate deep pass. Would have been nice though. The pass to him gets intercepted, so that's Taylor Powell's first interception as an Eagle, which really stunk. But Eastern Kentucky, with a lot of field position to go and not a lot of time to do anything with it, they elect to essentially just dribble out the clock and get into halftime down 14-10 to Eastern Michigan. I can't just say Eastern. This sucks. I was talking to somebody in the press box, and you're like, blah, 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 blah. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Oh, I cover Eastern. And he was like, So I was like, oh, yeah. Eastern Michigan. I'm sorry. This is one of those games where Eastern wins no matter what. And the second half, Eastern Michigan had the ball to start things off. Dylan Drummond was wide the heck open. How he got wide so open on this play, I don't know. But still, he got the ball. Was chased from behind, was brought down at the 4-yard line. Samson Evans took care of business on the next play out of the Wildcat formation. Easy touchdown, 21-0. Eastern Kentucky, they went 3 and out. But with penalties, they just backed themselves up into a really bad corner and a bad punt on top of that. The punt didn't even get out of the 50-yard line, finished at the 42-yard line. So Eastern Michigan, again, excellent field position. How could you not score a touchdown here? Which they do, a 12-yard strike to Tanner Canoe. So far, that's been my favorite thing about Taylor Powell, just to cut myself off. That's been my favorite part. Like, these drives were like, you better score. Like, I'd get really grumpy if like they only finish with like 2 field goals on these drives. But the fact that he's seeing drives where like I have to absolutely score because there's no excuse for me to be starting drives at the 50 or near the 50 and not come away with 6 or 7 points. I'm loving that out of Taylor Powell. He's making it happen. And so is Tanner Canoe, because he caught this 12-yard strike not in the end zone. He was crossing, turned, had to sprint and stretch and get past the defender to make it all happen too, which he does. Eastern Michigan raises its score 28-10. Eastern Kentucky, they drive essentially 75 yards, finish things off with its dual threat quarterback, who didn't really run a whole lot. Eastern Michigan, they knew that they had to keep him in check. You know, its DNs had to keep him inside a pocket and play its orbit game really, really well and be really strong on the edges to keep this dual threat quarterback, who had almost 600 rushing yards last year for EKU, keep him in check. So he had a 23-yard touchdown run. You don't want to see that. You absolutely don't want to see that. But you really only saw that the one time. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna like rewatch it, but like I think Taylor Powell might have like scrambled and tried to run more than the EKU quarterback. So it was nice to see. But you know, the one time they let him loose, he goes off for a 23-yard touchdown run. they know that the Eastern Michigan, they know that they have to dial in and let that be the last time he goes off. To their credit, they do. Eastern Michigan on the next drive, they don't get anything going. They punt it away. Eastern Kentucky, they punt it away. They don't get anything going either. Eastern Michigan on the next drive goes for 63 yards, finishes with 2 plays. One, Taylor Powell, he connects with Andres Posky, international tight end, pass catching extraordinaire. But he dropped a pass earlier in the game, and everybody let out a collective awe. This time he has a huge gain, gets them close to the end zone, all the way to the 7, rather. Taylor Powell on the next play, read option play, keeps the ball in the read option play, and runs it in for 7 yards as the defensive end bites. EKU can't really do anything on the next drive, finished with a 40-yard field goal, 35-20, so that's good for Eastern Michigan. But what's bad for Eastern Michigan is on the first play of the very next drive, another tight end got onto the field, but Jared Getzinger, he fumbles it. He fumbles it on the very first play of this drive, and Eastern Kentucky takes over on Eastern Michigan's 42. So that's not good. Looking like Eastern there, huh? Eastern Kentucky makes a quick drive. They finish with a touchdown pass to Dakota Allen, his first of the night. Took a while for Dakota Allen, number 13. That guy is a monster. We all knew that he was going to be a problem heading into the game, and he was. It was just really odd that it took until the third or fourth quarter, whenever this was, for Dakota Allen to finally get into the end zone with the ball in his hands. So Eastern Michigan's up 35-27 at this point. You got to dial in. You got to have this drive, because you know that Eastern Kentucky's coming behind you. Eastern Michigan, you have to come through with the drive. They drive 65 yards. It finishes with a touchdown pass to Hassan Badoun. Wasn't clean though. Taylor Powell, another lob pass up towards his right side, and it was essentially towards the same corner where he had the interception before, that general area of the field, right? The south corner. Anyways, Powell lobs up a pass. I don't know if he's going for Badoun. I have no idea if he's going for Dylan Drummond. It's one of those two, because it kind of goes somewhere in the vicinity of those two. Badoun comes through with the catch, and it was nice and heroic and all that stuff, but there was a lot of traffic involved, and anytime you have 2 of your own teammates going up for the same pass, that's not ideal. That's great that it ended up with a touchdown on the board, but if that would have ended up as a first down, nobody's looking at that as beautifully as we do right now. So that's something that Eastern Michigan has to figure out or fix in practice, just clean up the accuracy a little bit more, quarterback, but still nice that it ended up in a touchdown in that situation. Eastern Michigan takes the 42-27 lead. EKU drives again on the next drive, goes up. Well, not goes up, but still cuts into the score again, 42-34. And then on the kickoff, Eastern Kentucky, they go for an onside kick. Blake Bogan, again, who had the interception in the first quarter, comes through with the onside kick recovery. And Eastern kneels it out, and they win. So I'll have some more written analysis on the newsletter, ipsy11.com, if you haven't been there yet. But let me just give you 5 big takeaways from the game for the podcast, and then we'll just end this thing. Number 1, we've got to look at quarterback. Taylor Powell, there are some things that you got to clean up, but I generally think going from Ben Bryant to Taylor Powell, no real setback there. There's no setback taken. I really, really like what Taylor Powell has. I like the leadership he has. I like how the guys really want to play for him. I like that he is willing to make a lot of different things work. And I don't know how often Eastern Michigan's going to try to do, the read option in the run game with Powell, but they don't look uncomfortable doing it. He doesn't look, it doesn't look like this was just some plays that they finally tried out for this week, just to throw some smoke into, anybody that's trying to study film on Eastern Michigan, what kind of smoke screens are they going to throw into this playbook? And Eastern Michigan's going to run, and they're not going to run any more times throughout the year. What do opponents have to game plan that they're not going to see again? I think they're going to have to game plan for Taylor Powell to run. I think that's a real thing. Not that he's going to be like a big, huge contributor running it. I think that he's going to make the most out of plays that break down in front of him. And when he knows that there aren't any options for him to throw to, he can find a little patch of gray in front of him because, that's, I would like to say green, but, a little patch of gray in front of him and just try to get the most out of it, even if it's for like 2 yards, which you've seen before. If you watched last night, you've seen already that he'll make the most out of just, oh crap, I can't throw to anybody 3 yards downfield. I'll run it for 2 yards. That's better than taking the sack or the incompletion. 21 of 30 passing, 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. I think they were all in the first half. Running the ball, again, with 3 sacks. 8 total attempts, 5 net yards, and a touchdown, the 7-yard run in the second half. Taylor, good quarterback. I'm happy to see what I saw. Again, don't hold on to the 81% or 76% that he threw in practices. It's fine. Generally, he's still very good. It doesn't matter. That's not the standard I'm going to hold him to. But what I am going to hold him to is that he's being a great leader. He's making plays happen in different ways. He's getting the ball spread around. And he adds a good dynamic to the offense. He has the good lollipop throw. Yeah, it'll get him in trouble this year, definitely. But for now, it's done all right. Number 2, if you're going to go back and study this game like I will, this is what's going to make it hard is that Eastern Michigan benefited with a lot of really good field position and a lot of Eastern Kentucky penalties. Eastern Kentucky penalized 8 times in the first half, 12 for the game, 108 yards forfeited rather. The field position, Eastern, even without the penalties, even without the horse collars and all that, they still would have averaged out starting in the 30s. Yeah, and a lot of it just has to do with just special teams. Just Eastern Kentucky, when Eastern Michigan was returning, Eastern Michigan was getting more yards. When Eastern Kentucky was returning, they would find themselves into penalties and holding calls and this, that, and the other, and so they would back themselves up. That's why the 1 point went only to the 42-yard line, because on the special teams return, they had a hold, and it brought them out to the 15, and then they had not great yardage out of that, and the punt went for nowhere. So Eastern Kentucky, there's some talent that's to be desired out of its punter for sure, but it did not do itself any favors as a collective team on the special teams unit. And so with that, Eastern Kentucky gave up a lot of field position to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Kentucky has the players, but Eastern Michigan has the team. They take care of teams. They take care of special teams. That's a thing that really matters. So I think things could have got a lot more sloppy if Eastern Michigan did not care for special teams the way that it does. Number 3, Justin Jefferson's that guy. That dude can bang, man. That dude can bang. He didn't make all the plays in the world. He wasn't the linebacker that was always on the field. He only finished with 2 tackles, 2 solo. But dude, they didn't look like they were fun. I did not want to be the other guy that was getting hit by 41. Just didn't. And I can say that about a lot of Eastern defenders for sure. And I will throughout the season, especially Chase Klein. Bunch of guys on the defensive line, of course, because they're all huge. But Justin Jefferson, man, young man, get out of his way. Eastern did a great job on defense. Great bend, don't break defense. Just all around. Generally, and this is going to be my 5th point. I'm going to have to come up with a new one, but I'm going to have to use it to kind of explain my 4th. I really liked what I saw out of Eastern's run defense, especially against a dual threat quarterback. The running backs, they made some plays, they had some pickups, but nothing huge, nothing monumental. If they would have, then Eastern Kentucky wouldn't have elected to throw the ball 51 times. Instead, Eastern Kentucky, what they did with the ball, what did they do? They ran it 28 times, 13 with its running back, Braden Sloan, 8 times with another running back, Keandre Magliore. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. But both those guys only netted for, I'm looking at it, 92 total yards. Parker McKinney, the dual threat quarterback, he had the 123-yarder, and that was the longest rush of the game for EKU. Actually, for both sides. That was the longest rush of the game. If you take that out of the equation, like, Eastern Kentucky really didn't do anything. They really didn't do much with the ball running it. They let up a lot in front of them passing the ball, but they didn't let up a lot behind them. And so even if that meant, like, they had to figure out ways to cover Dakota Allen, the number 13. That guy is incredible, man. That guy's really good. He would be a menace in the MAC. A menace. But they kept a lot of plays in front of them, even if that meant, like, they had to break into, I don't know, like, not that you really want to do, like, a DPI, but, like, sometimes you just kind of have to with the advantages that tight end has over a lot of the defenders that he plays against, even against Eastern Michigan. It's hard to defend him and that dual threat quarterback at the same time, but they kept a lot of plays in front of them. They didn't let a lot behind them, and all told, Eastern Kentucky, they were well managed, and they kept the quarterback under control. So, for Eastern Michigan to let up 34 points in just that, for as late as they got to the 34th point too, like, that was kind of encouraging to see. You know, if Eastern Michigan's gonna make teams have more slow starts like that, then that's good. The first drive of the game is something to worry about. Right, because that looked like a breaking point. And it probably should have been. If you want to go back, and I'll probably do it right now, actually. But that drive, I feel like instead of throwing the interception in the end zone, the way that quarterback did, he might have been better serviced to just, like, hold it and just run it in himself and, like, live for another down. Or score his own. That would have been a better option. And if he would have done that, then who knows how this game would have gone. But still, I liked what I saw of the defense. There's definitely some good improvements there. Chase Klein, 9 tackles his way, had a pass breakup. Blake Bogan, of course, he had a great game. Had the recovery on the onside kick, had the interception, had a quarterback hit, had a pass breakup, 4 tackles. Jordan Crawford, he had his first career sack. Melvin Swindle, my guy. First career forced fumble. Seriously, like, I've told you before, if you listen to me, I'm telling you, Melvin Swindle is the juice. He is so good. I don't think he's going to get a lot of the playing time, but he is super good. Fifth point that I'm just going to come with on the fly. Hey, yeah, I'm just good for Samson Evans. Like, the first half was not really great out of him statistically. Not that Eastern Michigan was trying to force the run too much, but, like, they just didn't get a lot going. And Eastern Kentucky, like, to its credit, they have some guys, they have a lot of good players that can eat it up front, and that you have to game plan around. And a lot of that can be exposed in the second half when you go into the first half, you know, doing your game planning, coming into the second half, okay, these are the adjustments we have to make, and this is how we're going to come through with a win. Samson Evans, he only had 8 yards rushing on 10 attempts. I'm not saying that backwards. 8 yards on 10 attempts in the first half. That stunk. To end the game, he finished with 89 yards and 2 touchdowns on 15 attempts. So that's a lot better. You love to see that. He had some big runs, a lot of big plays. Got some things done on the Wildcat, just like you've seen before. No surprise there. So it'll be another good year for him. His 2 touchdowns on the day make it 16 for his career. Taylor Powell, of course, he had 1 rushing. So, yeah, good for Samson Evans, and generally just good for Eastern Michigan. This is a good win. Good necessary 42-34 win. Sucks that it was on ESPN3, but, you know, it is what it is. Now it gets a little extra rest. Played on a Friday. It'll be ready for a road trip next Saturday at Louisiana, one that it really needs to win. You know, not because, it's a nationally televised game. Yeah, on NFL Network. No bar in America is going to have NFL Network on. Or at least not one that only has like 2 TVs, which a lot of bars only have 2 TVs. Be nice. Be nice to little bars. It's a big win. Enjoy it. Know that you have a big task coming up at Louisiana. And seriously, stop running into number 41. That shit's going to hurt.